It's interesting. How do you think they're doing with that now? Because the UK is very much like the States.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like they're having the same issues we're having.
Yeah.
So do you think they're like in a worse case now that people are even more immature that are making those decisions?
I think so. And in England, there's even more either you go to university or you don't. There isn't most people probably will, they might, and it's almost, it's fashionable to not go to university now. So, and I think it is because you graduate high school and you're not required to continue schooling past the age of 16 unless you want to. You have a whole bunch of people that just stop at 16. And they go into the workforce, which for some people works, but there's something to be said about at least completing to 18 just in your intelligence and maturity as an adult.
Yeah, I agree. Even if you're not prepping for something specific, I think just being educated until you're about 20 is a good idea to help you develop how you think, for sure. Yeah,
just cognitive reasoning.
Yeah. And it takes a long time to build up a vocabulary, and you don't get... Yeah, I think most of the stuff that I learned in school that I really, really remember happened in like the last few years I was in school.
Yeah.
Like, when you're finally starting to grow up a little, you're like, oh man, I should probably pay attention now.
You start forming thoughts.
Yeah.
I think that's hard for kids in school though, because you're at that age where you don't care what younger people think of your opinion, and older people don't care about your opinions. You're kind of in that stuck position of like, I have these thoughts, but nobody cares.
Yeah, it's a weird time too. We stick all these kids together, so kids end up learning the most about life from other kids
who know nothing. About life.
What a shit show.
And then we expect, and that's probably the problem in England is you have all these kids getting out at 16 that have their cognitive understanding from other 16-year-olds.
Yeah, and they believe it better than adults.
Oh, for sure.
Something happens to people when they're that age that they don't want to listen to adults. I was one of them. I was a dick.
Well, and that's where I think most younger people are. That's when I cared about changing the world.
Oh yeah.
And then for a lot of people, you carry that into your mid-20s, and then past mid-20s, you kind of just care about your circle.
Yeah, you start to learn stuff like the way to change the world starts by being able to do something instead of just making noise.
Yeah. And I think it's because I think younger kids always have that, like, I'm going to fix it. It's going to be me. And then you realize it's not going to be you.
No, without some skills and competence and evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting lesson.
Who was that girl?
How long were you in England? You were born there, right?
No, I was born here.
You were born in the States?
Yep, I was born in the States, and we moved there when I was really, really young, and then we stayed there till I was 20. So, about...
Wow, that's most of your developmental years.
Oh, for sure. That's when we...
And your mom was English?
Yes.
Your dad was American?
Yep, he met her when because he joined the Air Force right out of college, and that was his first posting. He was stationed in Grissom, and then they gave him options of you can go here, here, or here. So he picked England because it was out of the country, away from where he'd grown up, and he wanted to have adventures and expand. And he met my mom there, and then because when he first joined, he was in the club field catering. So he ran the officers club at the base he was at.
Oh, cool.
And that field was kind of dying off as far as having a ranked person controlling it. They subcontracted out more to civilians now than anything else. So he went back to Alabama to retrain into technical service. So then they moved back to the States. I was born here, and then when I was really little, we went back to England. They gave him a chance to go back.
And that's cool.
Yeah, it was great.
You came back over here when you were 20?
I was 20. Around 20. It was like right before my 21st.
That's probably a culture shock.
It was very different. Very different. Even just the time.
But you were like 20. You just got shit figured out a little bit.
And
then it was like start over.
Oh, it was 100% there because I had just finished up my first apprenticeship. And I was...
Tattooing apprenticeship.
Tattooing apprenticeship. So I was now officially a full-time artist. And then we moved. So I had zero real experience. So trying to get a job somewhere else with no portfolio, no experience, just like, hey, I finished this 2 months ago.
Yeah.
So that's where I opted into redoing my apprenticeship, the last year of it, to kind of get my foot in the door.
It's probably a good idea.
Oh, it was definitely a good idea.
Because you were like apprenticing in the culture, not just the art. Which art and culture are pretty interwoven.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that was the one thing I always tell people is Walmart was insane. Because in England, like, we have superstores and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's like a big store for us would be the size of like our Aldi's here.
I love that about Europe.
Yeah, everything's
I wish
small.
we never would have done big box stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, I lived in a tiny village, no more than 1,000 people. It was like the Shire. And yeah.
That's
and
cool.
we had a gas station, a post office that was a post office convenience store. And then
Get your beef jerky and mail your letters.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then we had a real baker, so you can go get fresh bread every day.
That's the best.
We had a real butcher shop. And then we still had a milkman that would deliver your milk in little jars.
That's wild.
Yeah, yeah. And that
that is old school. That wasn't that long ago.
No, not realistically, no.
What was that, like 20 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
Man.
Yeah, yeah. It was not that long ago, and it's still like they stopped doing the milkman thing up until I was maybe 15.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was fun. I mean, it was a tiny little place. It was like living in medieval times all the time. Everything's old. You just drive down the road and there's just a castle.
That's great.
Yeah.
And then you came here.
And then I came here.
And everything's made out of like sheetrock and plastic.
Yeah, very much.
And nothing is older than a person.
Basically. And that's the crazy with houses here too. In England, everything is made from brick. If it's not old, and because the house I grew up in was a 400-year-old cottage made with lump flint stone.
That's great.
Yeah, it had a terracotta pan-tile roof. It was this close to just being thatch. And then I come here and everything's made from wood. Like, it's wood, siding. And
asphalt shingles.
Yeah, trying to find a brick home is absurd.
We got plastic wrap for our houses.
Yeah, but I went back last year. Went back for a week last year, but it was different though. And I think it's because all of my memories of it was from childhood and then formative years, and then going back as an adult, having to be the person that books the flights and pays for dinner and drives, not being the person chauffeured around.
Yeah,
it's a whole other experience. Yeah,
yeah, no, that's right.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It still is. I mean, people ask me all the time if I'll move and just live there, because I can go back and forth, but I don't think I'll ever live there. Cost of living is insane.
Oh yeah.
It's most places on the island is the same as the West Coast.
Yeah, it's a small place.
Yeah,
with considerable wealth.
Oh, so a lot of old money.
I see that.
Yeah,
they've been having issues with like rent prices and stuff for 100 years, haven't they?
Oh,
or
for
longer.
Sure. When that's a problem is because they have the space to expand, but all of that expandable space is either agriculture or it's protected land
or owned.
Yeah, there's
privately. Yeah.
It's the whole argument of the 1% situation, but it's, you'll have one old family that's existed for 1,000+ years.
Yeah, but a European country, man, don't you kind of root for like some situation that allows there to like keep undeveloped land?
There's
like so little of that in Europe. Such an old area.
It is.
It's been developed since I don't even know.
Well, if you take Scotland, for instance, the Scotland that you see now is not the Scotland pre-World War II.
Sure.
Because the whole place was forested before World War II, and then they clear-cut everything for the war effort.
I'll bet World War II changed the face of Europe, the whole thing forever.
Oh, for sure. Even down to, so where I lived, it was close to the U.S. Air Force Base, which was originally an English Air Force Base. But it's still, in the village I lived in, only 1,000 people, there was a World War II airfield that was all overgrown and not used, but they were just dotted everywhere. And you drive around, and it's still evidence of war everywhere.
Yeah, but I'd take forever to clean that up.
Yeah.
And that's in England, right? There were other countries that got way worse. France, right?
Well, drastically worse.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that's even in
Poland, was that another one that just got
decimated.
Yeah.
I mean, Poland was taken over before anybody really even knew what to do. I mean, they burnt through that country in absolutely no time at all.
Man.
Yeah.
Those are lessons we should not forget.
Yeah.
But here we are walking into tyranny, open arms.
Yeah. Just accepting it. Accepting it because at this point...
They're telling us the truth, though.
Yeah. But, I mean, nobody wants to accept the truth. Nobody wants to hear the truth.
That's true. That's a weakness we have. We got to get rid of that. You think we need some hard times to make some strong people, strong men make
It's
good
sad.
times?
And it's sad in the fact of... It's kind of scary because there is the fact that I think a lot of people have gotten weak to actual suffering.
Yeah, they don't like to hear the word weak. And, we all have weaknesses. I actually look for mine on purpose so I can get rid of them.
So you can develop
and
and grow and change.
You can't say I'm not weak.
Mm-hmm.
No one can say that.
No.
Because that's how you become weak.
Yeah.
That's the same way as like saying my government is not prone to tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
If you believe that, then you will be tyrannized by your government.
You've already accepted it. You're already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was talking about that earlier today, is that the lives we lead today, talking about being tough on children, and even, I mean, beyond obvious abuse situations, but even a quote-unquote tough parent today is a easy parent 100 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why people concern themselves so much with other people raising their kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we had the child abuse awareness thing, and that was a good thing. There were kids
yeah.
getting abused by post-industrial people that, I don't know, whatever. The awareness was good, but it's almost like we do everything too far. Mm-hmm. Then we got to the point where everybody's telling everybody else how to raise their kids.
Yeah.
And they're calling the cops on them and shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, you don't know. Maybe that kid really needed an ass beating.
For sure.
Like, maybe you don't know.
For sure. And
then the people be like, hey, you should never hit a child. Like, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe you don't know. I know you don't know because I don't know either.
No.
Because I don't think anybody knows.
No. Because you want to say in the right circumstance, but then is it the right circumstance for you, or who deems is the right circumstance?
Well, and if you don't know for sure,
you probably shouldn't do it.
Well, you shouldn't tell other people what to do.
Well, that's the problem, is most people's opinions are barely founded, and they're not even sure themselves.
Yeah, that's a weird time to put your ideas on someone else if you're not 100% sure. I don't know. But I could be wrong about all that. Who knows? So then, like, you're in the States and you're in your 20s. Mm-hmm. Around here, Indiana? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Westfield area at first.
Right on. And you got really into tattooing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You've been after a long time.
12 years. I was technically still in high school when it started. And which was not at all the plan at all. Like, growing up in a military family, military house, like, my whole plan was to join the Air Force. Like, ticked all the boxes.
Really?
Letters of recommendations from generals. I was in ROTC. I was in, the English version, which is Air Cadets. Like, I had my glider's license, pilot's license, all of this stuff. And all I had to do was just keep my grades. And didn't.
Yeah, that's hard, though.
Yeah. And it's because I went in to get a tattoo because I wanted a tattoo. So I was like, I'll just get a tattoo. I go in, and then it's so much more fun than what I was supposed to be doing. And I'm 18 and relatively stupid. So kept going with wasn't being paid, wasn't told I could hang out there. I just showed up every day and no one made me leave. So I just kept doing it.
Yes.
Until eventually, then I realized, this is what I want to do now. And I remember having the conversation with my dad because he went to college for graphic design. He wanted to be a professional artist, and then realized very quickly that it's hard to make a living as a professional artist.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah. So he was very concerned in the beginning of whether it was even feasible for me to do this in a mature sense and make an income and survive and not be crawling back on his couch 10 years from now. And
it's a fair concern for a dad.
Yeah. And funnily enough, it just worked out. Now, granted, it was not super profitable in the beginning at all.
Your timing was pretty good, though. Like, you were coming up with your skills at the same time the industry just blew up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I got into it, right about a couple years after all of the tattoo shows begun.
Mm.
So like it has already started to kind of become more mainstream and in people's living rooms. Like a lot of the people in my industry don't like tattoo TV shows. I think it cheapens the nostalgia and the mystery of it. But really, the TV shows and movies...
I can see why it would make people want to get one.
Yeah, I mean...
the more you learn about something, the more you're going to be interested in it.
Yeah, you put it in their living room. You made it a part of their everyday life now. Now it's not some crazy thing that you have to knock 5 times on the door and in the right rhythm and you get in. Like now it's very much... Like England's culture is very much you turn 18, you get a tattoo. There's no real question of whether you'll do it.
Yeah.
You just do it.
Our tattoo culture in the States, at least in the Midwest anyway, when in like the 80s, it was very much like biker.
Oh, for sure.
Subculture.
Yeah.
Like there wasn't a lot of, I mean, the guys doing it, a lot of them I'm sure were good artists. But they weren't like, artist type people weren't tattooing most of the time. It had to be a really tough guy who could also could draw. Because
back then the people you were dealing with, I mean, they weren't super gentle human beings.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
people that got tattoos were like, what? Prisoners.
Prison, bikers, military.
Members.
Oh, yeah. Then that's what it was. Because, I mean, there's like back in the day, say if you...
That's what it was here at that time.
If you, back in the 70s, 80s. Yeah. If you opened up a shop, say, even on the other side of town, like I was the only tattoo shop, and you opened up a shop the other side of town, back then, it was completely normal to go to that person's business, either burn it down or break their hands.
Yeah,
that's
dumb.
And that's how it was.
That's the best way to spread art and culture.
No, but even in Indiana, it wasn't legal to own a licensed tattoo shop until the 90s.
Yeah,
like Tommy's Tattoo here in town is actually the oldest tattoo shop in the state. He was one of the first to jump in. I
got one from there when I was a kid.
Yeah. Most people past 30.
You covered it up for me. Actually.
Oh, yeah, I did.
You did.
I did.
That was when we first kind of we'd met before, but we first started really talking. I saw you doing it. I think you were done with your apprenticeship. You were working at this smaller shop that was like, they do good work there, but it's more like a street shop. People can walk right in.
More traditional, yeah.
Walk right in and get a tattoo that day, so... but I'd see you in your slow times because you had to hang out there all the time, just waiting to see if somebody's going to come or not.
Yeah, and that's how the business model is for those. I call them traditional shops, but it's the old way of doing it. It's you walk-in style shops. The door is open, you are there till it closes, whether you're busy or not.
Yeah, which was probably some good experience for you.
Oh, but for sure.
I used to drive by that shop on my way to work, and I'd see you outside in your slow times, just sketching, just every day, just working on art. I was like, man, this is the first tattoo artist I've ever seen that just like clearly cares about the art. I'm sure there was plenty others, but I just didn't see them. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, and I think that's when I was like, I think I want to have him do this cover up for me. And I had a couple people tell me like, no, I don't want to try to cover that up.
A lot of people don't like messing with it. I think
it took you like, I thought I was going to talk you into it. It took you like 3 seconds. You're like, yeah, fine, we'll do it.
Yeah,
we'll cover it up. It's going to be dark.
Yeah, yeah, and that's even as like. From when I tattooed you to now, like I turn away even less cover-ups as I've learned more efficient ways to do it. And even technology has changed. The machines now, they make it so much easier to do those more quote-unquote difficult pieces.
Yeah, I've never had one person say they could see my old tattoo. I can't. That's pretty amazing to me.
Yeah, didn't you have like tribal?
It was a tribal. Yeah. It was a big, thick lined, black. Yeah. Hard to cover up.
Yeah.
You killed it though.
That's fun.
So then I want to talk to you, man, because then you moved to your own studio after that.
Yeah.
Which you operate for yourself.
Yeah.
That's a little different. That's a whole entrepreneurial
it was definitely
adventure.
It was definitely different in the fact of, because it is appointment only, you can fall into the trap of just being like, I don't want to go to work today. No one's making me. There's no requirement that I show up other than my wallet.
Yeah, right. Bills.
Yeah. But honestly, I found that more freeing to now it's on me. There is no one making me do this other than other people's expectations, but no one that's going to call me being like, hey, you need to come in. But I enjoyed that. And I was thinking about it today. I've never worked a 9 to 5. I've never worked in anything that wasn't kind of I have to drive myself situation. Even as a kid, because I worked for my parents, they owned an antiques business when my dad retired from the military. It was still you have to put effort into the situation.
I see, yeah.
Yeah, and it was intimidating at first because I was leaving a place where I knew how much I would make average to a place where I had no idea.
Yeah, and you're responsible for your own marketing,
your
own advertising.
Yeah.
You're responsible for your own branding too, which you had to decide I'm going to do this certain, kind of art. Obviously, you do just about anything, but you have like a vibe, like your own
preference and a technique and a style that I lean to more than anything.
What would you describe it as?
Realism in general, but more so black and gray realism. Portraits the most. Like honestly, my favorite tattoos to do in general is a woman's face, female portraits.
Really?
It's my favorite.
I've seen you do a few of those, man. Was that a Native American woman I saw one time you did on somebody? Damn, that was good.
That was fun.
I will say I'm usually not partial to like horror movie stuff. Like there's a lot of people in that whole cult, and I appreciate the shit out of it. Yeah. It's just never been that cool to me. But man, that Jason you did. What's his name? Jason Voorhees. On that too.
Yeah.
God, that was so creepy. It looked like it was coming out of him.
Yeah. Yeah. That
was it was on the arm?
On his arm, yeah.
Yeah. I saw the time lapse video on Instagram or TikTok or something. Yeah, dude, that was good. It looked like it was I don't know why you'd want to have that on your arm. Like, it's terrifying.
It is, and that's where, like, because I'm a big horror movie aficionado myself, so I just enjoy them. So like, I kind of get it, but I get it to other people because that's where I have to catch myself, because I run a TV in my room when I'm tattooing people, and I have to catch myself for remembering to maybe ask them if they also watch horror movies to the level that I do, not realizing I'm putting
somebody's getting murdered
and their
screen.
Client's terrified. I'm like, oh, it's a Tuesday. But funny. No, and that's because I did that one. I did an entire horror sleeve on a friend of mine, Michael.
I think I remember that.
Yeah. It's
did that one have Kruger on it?
Yep.
Yeah. Because I remember thinking, dude, this is crazy. You're tattooing burnt skin on skin.
Burnt skin. Yeah.
That's so.
It was
weird.
on his elbow too, which actually worked out better on that wrinkly skin. To where it's like his face already looks like melted pizza, so it's fine. Yeah. But no, that's it. Realism is always. I like it because it's scary. It's not easy. It's never. I've been doing portraits now for pretty much the whole time I've had the studio open, and it's still to this day just as scary as the first time. Like, it makes more sense to me from a technical aspect, but the actual doing it is still terrifying.
Nice. I like the way that your resolve on quality is so high. Like, you don't just get some stuff through to get it done to pay a bill, man. Like, you always like take your time and make sure it's the best piece it can be. Yeah. And you've gotten down that road further and further, right? You were saying the other day, like, you're doing projects that some of them take years.
Years, yeah.
Like, you don't go in and knock out a tattoo for somebody in an hour anymore.
No.
You generally you're building huge works of art on people.
Most of the pieces that I start are projects. Most of them are projects, and a lot of it is most of the time a minimum a year for some things. I think the longest I worked on was a back piece that was 4 years in the making. Yeah,
I think I remember that one.
Yeah,
it's incredible,
and it's satisfying, and the idea of the intimidation of laying out, say, a sleeve is like just making it. Even before you start tattooing, just figuring out where this piece will go, how this will interact with this one, and then doing the process. And of course, appointments are 3 weeks to months in between.
Yeah, right. You got to pick up the inspiration again,
and you have to go back into it, and then once you have the final completed piece, it's crazy. Like I said the other day, sometimes I get sad when it's done.
Yeah, it's over, right? Finished the story.
Like, it's satisfying because it's completed, but then there's, like, the back piece that I worked on him for 4 years. And I went from meeting the guy for the first time, not knowing who he was, to by the end of it, like I knew his kids' names. I had watched his children grow for 4 years. Like one of them was in elementary school and started middle school in that time. And then there's some projects. I think the time is the crazy part. Is like I started here. I started tattooing one guy, and he was single. And by the time we were done, he'd been married. Like he'd met his wife, been engaged, then got married.
Yeah, you spend a lot of time with people too, man. Like you probably really get to know everybody, for better or worse.
Oh, I've heard some stories. I've had some people confess some deeply.
People get weird when they're in a little bit of pain too.
You say things you wouldn't normally say when you're in pain. And there's the aspect of you're already trusting me to do something on you permanently. Like you don't know me.
That means that I can trust you with all my deep, dark secrets
100%. And I think it's even better because I'm in an enclosed room and it's just us.
Your studio is very intimate.
It's very private.
Really cool. Yeah.
It's cozy. It's very cozy. Well, that's what I always wanted. I started.
It feels nothing like a tattoo shop that I knew of from the 80s or 90s.
No. The feeling I wanted to have was as close as you can get to the comfort of your own home, without it being gross.
Oh right, yeah. There's not a bag of Doritos smashed in the carpet.
Exactly. Like I wanted clients to feel like they could relax. Like they're not going to a very clinical. Everything's a hard surface.
It's not clinical looking.
No,
but it is intelligently done to where everything's a wipeable surface you can sanitize. But it doesn't feel like that though. Well, it's actually cooler than like if you were at home. It's a really cool space. You have like swords and dead animals and other weird art pieces that I don't even know what's happening.
Oh, my favorite description of the room, the aesthetic was it was an older lady. She came. Her granddaughter was getting tattooed, and she came to Solidarity. She was in there for about 30 seconds. She didn't even make it past the door. And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, honey. I gotta go. This is like Satan's Cracker Barrel. I gotta go."
Satan's Cracker Barrel.
Satan's Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, Cracker Barrel has all the stuff.
Just weird shit. Because I got a Ouija board up on the wall. I got taxidermy everywhere. I got snakes in jars.
Oh, that's great.
And she meant, and of course the girl's apologetic. She's like, "I'm so sorry." And I was like, honestly,
that's why I put up these demons.
This is why that's what I was shooting for.
Keeps out the light.
Exactly. At one point, I used to have salt in front of the door.
Yeah, I remember that
for the longest time, and I just like weird.
I think I had one person ask me, they're like, what the hell's going on in that room? I said, he's English.
Honestly,
somehow that works.
Honestly, but people will be like, "Oh, yeah." I don't understand it, but that makes sense.
Yeah, we've all seen like. In the U.S., we've all seen these European movies where there's always a weird Englishman or something.
It's much like
an old castle.
Exactly. Yeah, which I can see Americans thinking that because before I moved back here, I always thought that all Americans had Southern accents.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. Because like my experience is through television. Like I think everybody is from Sons of Anarchy, and they all have they all ride motorcycles and.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's so funny that the U.S. is like impossible to stereotype.
Oh yeah,
I mean it's so big, so many cultures, so many races, so many languages, and the whole world lives here. Like you can find somebody from any country, here, but we still stereotype people somehow, and people still gather in groups somehow. It's so weird. I travel a lot, and I meet people from different areas in Europe and Middle East or whatever, and it's funny. Hearing what they think of the States, especially if they've never been.
Oh yeah, and that's where I grew. I grew up with that concept of what Americans were, whether they were that way or not. Like most Europeans,
and you can be right. You can make up any stereotype you want and find
a place.
Find it. Yeah, you're like, well, you were right.
Yeah, yeah, and it's especially the English vision of Americans when they've not met any is that all Americans are rude.
Really.
Yeah, because the English concept of what Americans were was from the Second World War, where all these soldiers came over and were stationed out of England to go.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they were a bunch of
to
dicks.
the Western Front, and they were all dicks, and
that's exactly who you want to fight a war for you.
That's what you do want. But they came and they married all these English women and took them back to the States.
Would make you mad,
yeah. So then there's
that was your mom.
Yeah, basically, an American soldier came over, married an English woman, took her away. That's how that worked.
Yeah, Vims is great too.
She's fun time. She's 4 foot of nothing. I think she's just above the legal.
She's at least 30 feet tall in her head, though.
Oh, she has the personality of someone.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've told the story before, but my mom was the first time I'd ever been punched by a woman.
Really?
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me a bit.
Oh, no. And because we were arguing, because I think I was 16 and knew everything.
Oh, yeah.
And arguing through, like, I was going to the bathroom. We were arguing through the bathroom door. And she just reached a point where she decided she was losing the argument. So she just resorted to violence. She Kool-Aid manned her way through the door and punched me in the forehead with my pants around my ankles, and then ran away like a angry leprechaun. Yeah. And I found her, and I was like, "Why did you punch me?" She's like, "Well, I was losing the argument." I was like, "Okay, but why did you punch me on the shitter?" She's like, "You couldn't chase me."
That's a good point.
Yeah,
you were vulnerable.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
and she always
took
has
advantage of the opportunity
for sure. And because all of her friends describe her, and I guess I'm just used to her at this point. But all her friends describe her personality as she just calls everybody a cunt. Everybody.
She does.
She really does.
I never noticed that.
I just kind of, I guess, blinded it out of.
Dude, I like the way she talks with her body first. Mm-hmm. Like, she's so small, but you don't get the feeling that she's small at all. And when she's got something important to tell you, she gets right up to you.
Oh, yeah.
And she's so used to looking up, it's so natural to her. She's like, mm-hmm. And then she just talks right to the bottom of your chin. I'm like, okay, mims, I'm here. I hear you.
When it's like, even though she is below you, and you normally, bigger things are intimidating, she's far more intimidating.
Yeah.
Because you're so vulnerable. She's in all of the dangerous areas.
Oh, and her eye contact is...
But she won't let go.
Just magnetic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can tell she's looking at me right now.
Well, and I always tell people, because I got going from different places, especially last year when we went to England and Greece in the same year, was Greek people are super nice.
Yeah?
Oh, super, super nice. And then English people are culturally kind of dicks.
Like a little stuck up? Because I was thinking that's what my U.S. stereotype is for English people.
Most of them are just very crass. They don't filter at all.
Really?
Whereas you think of the California smile, where it's...
Because there's also a lot of sophistication in England, right?
There is. But it's still, England's very class-based. It's very in the class system is, you are poor, middle, or rich, and the rich and the poor hate the middle.
And the rich are more aristocratic. That's where the sophistication lies.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Like, even in school, I took finishing classes of like what fork this is, where that goes, and how you're supposed to sit at a table in a formal event. Yeah. And that was, and I always have to kind of warn people that meet my mom for the first time, because she doesn't mean to be, but you'll think she hates you. Like
really?
Oh yeah, she'll just like, I wasn't there for it, but Nicole told me about it, was that it's when they were dress shopping, they couldn't find the restaurant they were going to. Mm-hmm. And my mom just physically grabbed a random jogger on the street and very abruptly didn't ask where this restaurant is. She said, "Tell me where this restaurant is."
I like your mom.
That's what I like about her.
She's so direct.
Oh yeah.
And honest.
What, at that height, you have to be. You have to be direct. You can't.
No one's going to hear you.
No, you've got to be very direct.
That's why she talks with her whole body. And I don't just mean she moves her hands and stuff. Mm-mm. Like, if she's going to talk to you, she starts with 4 steps in your direction. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh, okay.
There's movement.
Yeah. She's going to... If she might carry around like a soapbox if she could.
Oh, yeah.
Like if she had something to just stand on.
And she would do it without any irony or feeling weird about it at all. She
doesn't feel weird.
No.
She does no hesitation. Mm-mm. When she looks in your eyes, you're like, okay.
It's the most direct experience, which is really funny watching my son grow up and have that experience with her that I had as a child. She's much gentler with him than she was me. But
sure.
But she's
got the grandma card now.
Oh, yeah. But it's weird, though. She still will jump his ass in a heartbeat.
Yeah, that's because she cares.
Yeah.
I like that generation.
Oh, yeah.
They were a good generation, I think, because they were tough.
Yeah.
My parents were tough, way tougher on me than kids nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Because you had military upbringing, too, with your parents.
Yeah. Both my parents served. My brother and sister served in wars. Mm-hmm.
It's a different breed of people.
Yeah, there's just a lot of discipline and a lot of clarity and a lot of stick to the process kind of living. It all makes sense to me.
Well, yeah, you didn't question why you were doing certain things because it just made sense because you're doing it the most efficient way possible.
Yeah, and that's another thing about it. Like, I didn't grow up with so much in the feelings thing.
Yeah.
Like, if we had stuff to do, we grew up knowing we had stuff to do.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't, how we felt about it wasn't a conversation.
Wasn't really a consideration.
Like, and I'm not saying that's all wrong. It's just, it's different, man.
Honestly, though, I found that...
Like, I remember being a kid being like, oh, Mom, I don't want to do that. And my mom just be like,
okay.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of stuff we don't want to do. Well, who gives a shit?
I've done 12 things this morning I don't want to do.
Yeah.
But and it was weird, though. I liked that as a kid. I liked not having to have the emotion discussion. It made things easier. Like, it was your dad loves you, but he doesn't have to say it every day.
Yeah, he shows you by being tough on you was the idea back then. That's true, man. If you don't care about somebody, generally you're not gonna, it's tough to be tough on somebody.
It takes more effort.
Yeah, if you're doing it out of love, it's difficult anyway.
Yeah. If you're trying to foster and build, it is.
Yeah, I mean, if you're just like an egomaniac with a bunch of insecurities being mean to a kid, that's different.
Yeah.
But it takes real work to apply tough love to your own kid when you know it's best for them. It's a difficult thing.
Especially if you're doing it out of love, you don't want to do it. You don't enjoy being tough.
Yeah, no, of course not. It feels terrible to make your kids upset.
But it's a necessity.
Yeah, and man, so many of the U.S. people now are raised by single moms.
Mm-hmm. The large proportion of them.
Yeah, which certainly has to have some kind of effect, because as hard as it is to tough love on your kids, it's got to be harder for moms. Just to be fair, I'm not saying like they're not as capable or something.
Oh no,
but surely it has to be more difficult emotionally.
Yeah,
I think. Then they have to do it.
Well,
if they're by themselves, man,
they don't have a choice. You have to take on both roles.
Yeah,
and I think that has to be hard especially with raising boys as a single mom.
Yeah, they're going to challenge you.
100%, because they think they can.
Yeah, and their dad isn't around the corner to smack the shit out of them if they...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's where most single moms that I've ever met are tough as fuck. Tough women.
Yeah, well, you ought to be.
Yeah. But...
I don't know how we got on that.
No, we
were talking about tattooing at some point. Yeah.
We lost track. We did a little adventure. Came back. But... yeah, I mean, that's... well, when I moved back here, because the culture was different, both in people, the art. So when I lived in England, everybody got... like, the popular tattoo to get was Asian, traditional, like Asian.
I remember that. That happened here for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then when I moved here, it was all...
people were getting Asian and Japanese symbols on their arms that they didn't know what they meant.
And like, so when I first started tattooing in England, I loved that style. That's what I wanted to do. I'm going to do this.
Like the big koi fish stuff. The dragons, the Chinese dragons. Yeah,
and then when I moved here, especially when I started working down in Indianapolis, it was kind of the neo-traditional and traditional, and because it's cool, it's edgy.
Yeah, well, tell me what that is.
So traditional is what you would think of as like Sailor Jerry, like the old school ship
pirate
and anchor,
tattoos,
basically.
Okay.
And then neo-traditional is that, but done well. So because those tattoos were done in that kind of cartoonish, simple style,
like 2-dimensional on purpose.
They were doing that because they didn't have the technology at the time to do anything different. Because back then, now we have stencils.
So that's all they could do.
That's all they could do.
But it went on so long, it became its own
style.
Yeah. So now people are doing it on purpose.
So the neo-traditional is basically that, just with more detail.
I see.
So that was very popular when I first moved here. And then when I came to Kokomo specifically, it was realism. People wanted realism. They wanted black and gray especially. And like I remember the first year of working here in Kokomo, it was a lot of Harley symbols. Like a lot of them.
Yeah. Harleys are badass.
Yeah. Factory town, a lot of people have them.
They do. And it's like a whole culture.
Yeah. It's all entire subculture.
Yeah. That's interesting. But portraits is probably also a lot of memorials, right?
Mm-hmm.
Quite a few of them. Like, that's like a sad thing all the time, or is that?
It's yes. I mean, it can be. What I found though is a lot of memorial, because I've done a child memorial. I've done a baby.
Oh, damn it!
Yeah, that was heart-wrenching. But they didn't really talk about it. They didn't want to talk.
No, that's fortunate.
Yeah, it was one of the most silent appointments I've ever had. It was very much like, do you like this? And they're like, yes, I do it. They look at it and they leave. But a lot of the memorial stuff is surprisingly upbeat for, like, if I'm doing like their dad or their grandparents. A lot of it's up because a lot of the time they talk about all the good stuff.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not as doom and gloom as it could be.
Yeah. Because I wonder, like, have you ever had any requests to do a memorial piece that was like way too early?
Mm-hmm.
What's that like? I mean, do you have to like bring out your like ethics board and be like, oh man, maybe we should wait on this? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm booked up for like 6 weeks.
I had one that it was another child portrait, and the child had only died like a week before. And they were very, thankfully it didn't really even pull to fruition. It's one of the few times that I'm glad an appointment didn't really happen, was they came in like a week after the child had died. And they were adamant it had to be done now. It was a need, a necessity, almost like they couldn't rationally tell me why they wanted it. They just almost like this is what they needed to move on.
That's tough, man, because you don't know if you should argue with them or not.
Like, yeah, because I can't tell you how to process your own grief,
right.
But thankfully it ended up being I made the appointment, and it was supposed to be for like a couple weeks to a month out, and then when it got closer, they changed their mind.
Okay, that worked out.
Yeah. But it can be tricky. It can be tricky with them. And honestly, I think that's why I like doing portraits, is the emotional reaction afterwards. Because like you can do a good tattoo and they can see it's good. We can all agree it's good, but it's not breathtaking.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like somebody that you know. Like they know that person.
Yeah.
So you can't fake it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean,
oh no,
if you mess up the shape of their face,
it's done.
It's not the same person.
Yeah, yeah, and that's.
I'm not a good artist with my hands like that, so I can't even imagine the work you do. It's incredible.
Yeah, I think the hardest one I ever did was, it was the guy's mom, and the picture he brought me was one of the old Sears wallet photos. Yeah. So it's the old Sears pictures where they just white out everything to where there's no features at all, so it makes you look younger, but does not help my job.
Overexposed.
Oh, for sure.
Tiny, with teased up hair probably.
Oh, yeah. And it was a wallet photo, so he'd been carrying this thing around for years, so it's like half of it's not there to begin with. The other quarter of it's faded at this point. So I had to hand draw, which normally I don't like doing when it comes to portraits, because you're playing the Chinese whispers of realism at that point. By the time you get to the tattoo, you've downgraded quality. Yeah. So normally I don't like hand drawing anything unless I have to. But him, I had to, because he gave me the wallet photo is what he wanted, but he gave me like 4 or 5 other pictures of his mom from varying stages in her life. And I had to make this portrait and basically make the picture that it should be. And that was tricky, and it was huge. He wanted his whole arm to be her face.
Oh,
it wasn't even like...
There's no room for error. It's like a blown up...
Oh, yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
How did it go?
It went great. I still have it hanging up on the wall in the studio.
Oh, cool.
It was really good. But it was just hard logistically and artistically to create, because even though I'd drawn it and I knew what it was, you're still making stuff up on a thing that you should never make things up on.
Yeah, you have to, though, right?
Yeah, to some degree. And that's... Because especially with portraits, there's no room for error. Like a little bit maybe in the shading, but what we call the anchors of the face.
Yeah, like if a tiny detail is off on a face, it's not the same face.
Yeah.
It's like... Yeah. Because humans are very good at recognizing facial features. Like we are hypersensitive to it.
Like if you have a bump, you have a bridge in your nose. If I don't put that in there, it's not their nose.
True. And even the shape of a nostril will be like, that's not the same person.
Yeah. So it's tricky, and I think that's why I love it so much, is because it is so difficult. So it's satisfying, and especially when the client sees it when it's done. And there's something about the client concept of realism, because they don't do it. So to them, it's this impossible thing.
It's magic.
It looks
like magic to me.
Yeah. So when they see it on their skin, you put life you put a 3-dimensional picture on someone's 2D flat plane skin.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I think it's the little bit of maybe just satisfaction in being like, oh yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
Yeah.
So what's like your what probably the worst job request you've ever had, just for fun?
Worst?
Yeah.
There's 2.
Well, it could be worst or funniest or whatever.
So
you know what I'm asking.
Oh yeah.
Because not everybody has their shit together.
No.
And they still want tattoos.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you have at least one.
I'd say the funniest was, I still today I couldn't remember his face. Even if he walked past me, I wouldn't know him. But it was, he came in and he wanted to get a cartoon pot plant getting a blowjob from a cup of lean, like a fountain cup with lean coming out.
You already
of the top.
lost me.
Yeah.
You're talking about a plant that's like anthropomorphized into a person, a man,
basically. Yeah. So it's like he wanted the pot plant with like eyes and a face, and then
an erection. Okay.
And then he wanted a styrofoam fountain cup with a face. So, granted, at the time, I'm drawing this thing. He had to tell me, like, okay.
And he wanted him to be in actively
fellatio. Yeah. Yep. Which was real fun when I was drawing it because the guys I worked with at the time.
Oh, you took this to the level. You're like, I'll draw it.
I was like, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, of course, I don't normally draw like blowjobs often.
Yeah.
So I had printed out all of these hentai like animated porn clips.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So they're all doing my research, make sure I get the mouth correct.
Yeah. Did you feel like explaining yourself to people? Like, my browser history is for work.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But it was funny that when everybody came back, because I was there by myself, everybody gone for lunch. So nobody knew what was happening. They came back from lunch, and there's, a dozen animated porn stills out on the drawing table.
A dozen animated cocks on your table.
Oh, 100%. And they're like, what are you doing? And I explained it to them. They're like, okay. And I've never questioned anybody on what tattoo they're getting, on, whether they should get it. But I feel like that tattoo was why the term tattoos are allowed as long as they're appropriate.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I think that. And he worked at Lowe's.
Oh. And where did he want it on his body?
On his forearm.
Well, his forearm. For everybody to see always.
Always. The upside for him, though, is
that guy had to have been full of don't give a fuck.
100%. He walked in and his friend had to translate for me. Because when he first came in, that's why I sent him away for a little bit, because he came in and he was so mush-mouthed from drinking what I'm assuming is lean. His tongue was so numb. So he walked in and was like, I want Popeye and get him a cup of lean. I'm like,
wait, he spoke English, but you couldn't understand him because he was drinking
lean. Yeah.
What's that?
It's codeine and Sprite, basically. Liquid codeine.
That's really stupid.
It's really stupid.
Codeine's awful anyway.
Yeah, it's not good.
People do it on purpose.
Yep.
God, I've gotten that from the doctor for like sore throat or something. I'm like, that is awful.
Yeah, it's not a fun time. But that's why I sent him away for a little bit, and I was like, okay, you go sober up. And
but he was serious.
He was committed to it. Yeah. And the what I find the funniest to the whole situation, beyond the fact of what was in it, was I didn't realize it was supposed to be him as the pot plant. Like, he wanted the pot plant to represent him.
Oh, no.
The plant did not have a very big dick. Like, I made it look just kind of like a twig off of the side.
Well, that makes sense.
And he didn't even...
the plant wouldn't have
a large... Yeah. But his friend called him out on it, because I was doing it, and I got finished, and he's like, man, you got a little dick.
Oh, all the way to... You did the ink before he told you that he wanted.
Oh, yeah. And then he was like, well, what do you mean? He looks at me, he's like, oh, man, why does that thing got such a small dick? And I was like... Well, I didn't know you wanted me to put a giant dick on your arm. And
yeah, you gotta be specific, bro.
Yeah. And he's like, well, it's supposed to be me. And I'm like, well, I guess.
And I don't know you like that.
You have to explain yourself, man. Yeah. At least what I think may have helped him in the long term is he was a very dark-skinned black man. So you couldn't really see it super well unless you were right up close to him. So that at least helped him out a touch. But there is somebody... Maybe not in Kokomo anymore, but there's somebody walking around this earth with a pot plant getting a blowjob from a cup of lean. That's probably the funniest.
Oh, the cup in the tattoo was lean.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there was like the top of it was off, and there was ice cubes with like purple lean in it.
Just proud of proud of it.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
He took his life choices and made them a lifestyle, and embraced it.
And you did it.
I did.
Good for you.
Yeah. But probably the grossest experience, the worst, was the vagina tattoo I did.
On a vagina or of a vagina?
On a vagina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why was that gross?
The person was gross.
Okay.
Just physically. And it wasn't just that the person was gross, the experience was gross. Because her husband came with her. And it was just saying inappropriate, gross things the entire time.
Yeah, make a weird thing weirder things.
And it was like one of them was like midway through the tattoo and he leans over. He's like, "It's nice, isn't it?"
No.
So of course I'm stuck in this, like, I can't say no. Like, I'm just going to tell both her and her husband that no, it's not. Right. Or I say yes, and now I'm inappropriate and weird too.
Yeah.
So I hit the middle ground of like, yeah, it's a cool tattoo. Just skipped
Straight
location.
to the professionalism.
Oh, I had to.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
And it was just a weird... It was one of the only times I've done a tattoo where after I got done, I was like, I'm going to go home now. I'm done.
Yeah. What part? Like on the outside?
Like the outer, like the mound.
Okay.
And then it came right up.
So bad.
Came right up above like the hood.
I was like imagining somebody trying to have you tattoo something you shouldn't be tattooing.
No.
Probably.
I mean, because I mean, I've not done a genital tattoo in a really long time. Mainly because I made the price point so unachievable, to where if you're willing to do it, then okay, we're here. But
yeah,
most people, it's an absurd number, and they know it's an absurd number for a reason.
Have you ever seen a genital tattoo that you thought was good?
Honestly, there was one.
Yeah,
I've only ever seen one, and it's of a octopus on this girl. It starts on her butt, and it like wraps around her butt cheeks, and then comes around the front, and the tentacles kind of wrap up around her legs. And it's not even that the location works for it; it's just a very well done tattoo for a extremely sensitive area of the body.
I've never really seen any.
No,
I can't imagine. It'd be difficult to think of something that would work well, especially on like a male genitalia.
And that's the thing with male; it's the only thing.
First of all, how do you sign up to have your
I have tattooed
penis poked?
I have tattooed a guy's dick.
Oh my god!
And it was funny. He was pledging for IUPUI. Yeah, and it was part of his pledging for the fraternity. And he had to get
There's a frat that gets their dicks tattooed.
I guess that, or they just talked this poor kid into it.
See, that's what I'm saying. You could come up with any stereotype in the United States and find some people.
Oh yeah, and he came in and he explained the situation. Explained he wanted a smiley face on the very end of it. Yeah, and I was like, okay. I'd never done it, and
it's gonna make every girl laugh
every single time. Yeah. That's what I told him. Just this big absurd number, and thinking he'd be like, "Oh, I can't do that." And he was like, "Okay."
Damn it.
And I was like, "Okay." And at this point, I threw out this absurd number that I was like, I mean, if you're willing to do it,
it's worth it now.
Yeah, I can buy enough.
How is that for a person?
It's terrible.
I mean, are they writhing in pain and anxiety?
Oh, yeah. I
can handle pain, but I would think the anxiety of having such a vulnerable piece experience pain.
Yeah. It's the one part of our bodies that we protect more than anything.
Unconsciously. Yeah. It'd be hard to not just like straight arm you, even though I wanted you to do it. Like there's something inside your biology that's like that doesn't want you to get stabbed in the penis. Like that's what it is.
Where I had him hold it, like for no other reason, no weirdness, but I had him hold it just so he had some control of the situation.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea.
And I kind of just like put my hand on top of his hand and barely touched him, and it took all of 15 seconds. But yeah, he was excruciating. I've never seen a man like crawl inside themselves.
Oh God.
Yeah.
That's giving me the willies.
No, it was fun. But yeah, I got done with that, and it's super. Like it took far longer to even talk about it before I was even done with it.
That's how you know it's a bad idea.
Yeah. When I even told him, I was like, "Man, are you sure you want to do this?" He's like, "Oh, it's part of my fraternity pledge." I was like, I mean, it's an IUPUI fraternity, man. They're going to get you a good job at the bank. It's not. Like, it's not.
Yeah, he needed to fit in, though, bro, somewhere.
I guess.
I hope it worked out.
You know they made him get his dick out for every frat party for that entire
Yeah, you know when he got back, they were like, dude, we were fucking with you. Nobody gets their dicks tattooed.
Oh, yeah. But you know he stuck with it, though. He stayed.
Yeah. What do you do?
I mean,
it's gonna be even worse to go to the tattoo removal person with that tattoo.
just black it all out.
Yeah, oh gosh.
No. But I mean, I've had my genitals pierced, like the very end of it, and that was
a big popular thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially the one that I did, because it's not like the Prince Albert. It's 2 on either side, and it was excruciating. It's the only body modification I've ever had done that was like, okay, if this falls out, I'm never doing this again.
So you kind of regretted it.
Oh, immediately. Because even the lady that did it, she warned me. She's like, try not to get an erection for like the first 48 hours. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I woke up the next morning covered in blood.
Yeah, you can't not get an erection.
Just an erection in my sleep, and I was covered in blood.
Oh my god.
And
that's a nightmare. That's a horror film.
Oh, and it is one of those, like, I thought, it's like, oh, this will be cool.
How old were you?
21.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I did a lot of stupid shit too.
100%. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who still like that stuff. And there's a lot of fetishism in those industries too. Sure. So you probably have to stay pretty open-minded.
You do. Yeah, and that's even, because like even in my room, like not a lot of people see it or catch it, but I have shibari up on the wall, rope bondage.
I noticed that. That's the Japanese
Japanese rope bondage. Yeah. Okay. And like I've done it for probably 2 or 3 years now. I've practiced it, and you do get kind of shoehorned into the weirdness when you
taboo fetishism. Yeah, sure.
And that's but especially in the industry itself, is I think because there is more so with the people that do the job than clientele or people around it, is because we're doing something that was taboo for so long.
Yeah.
That we associate around a lot of other taboo things.
Sure.
Yeah. That's where, like, most tattoo conventions you go to, there'll be suspension, where you drive hooks through your skin and float in the air.
I've seen that.
Yeah. And
it's wild.
We're put in the same stage as like circus sideshows.
Right, yeah. That, a person with a tattooed up person was a circus.
Was a sideshow.
Yeah.
Yeah, we carry that still.
I don't remember that. I'm not that old. I remember seeing of that.
Yeah. I remember probably being like 3. It's my only memory of being 3, going to the Peru circus when they still had animals.
Really?
Yeah, we'd came over on vacation for a visit, and it was right when the Peru circus was on.
It's a dope circus. That's a legit circus.
I've not been back there. I've never been back since I was a little kid.
It's such a cool thing that they keep that. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have like a whole circus band and all kinds of stuff. That's so cool.
Well, that's right. I love that the whole town just made it that's their culture.
That's like their thing.
Yeah, it's Circus City. Like, you go to school, you go to high school, and then you go to circus. You go to trapeze.
That's weird.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not everybody's the same type of client. Like, some people are there because of they're into the art and they want art on their body. Mm-hmm. Some people want like to be reminded of a memory.
Yeah.
Some people are wanting to tap into their like taboo side.
Some do, and I know I have some people that do it as a form of therapy. There's the age-old joke of like it's ink therapy, but I do have some clients that used to be cutters, and then they stopped cutting and started getting tattooed because they get the same pain release, but they get something out of it.
It is good therapy. Mm-hmm. I think any exposure to uninjurious pain is a great practice.
Yeah.
I mean, I do the ice water every morning.
Yeah.
And it's, I think my wife asked me the other day, she said, I can't believe you like that. I'm like, I don't like it.
No.
That's the point of it. It's pretty miserable.
Yeah.
But tattooing is very much like that.
Very much.
It's a really good, there's a limit to how much practicing you can do.
Yeah.
But I could see how that would actually help somebody.
Yeah, it really does. Like, and that's
learn to feel the pain, but not let it become suffering.
Because when it's something you can control, it's a pain that you have. Because I always allow my client, I tell them before everything.
You really have to accept it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to surrender to it, because you can't fight the pain of a tattoo for hours and hours and hours. You're gonna quit at some point and just let it.
When it's one of those things too, like if you want to get it done, you have to, because you can't will that pain down. Like, you can't deep breath your way out of that. It's something about the tattoo pain for a lot of people is because it is only right into the dermal layer. So you're right into the heads of nerve.
Yeah.
To where it's excruciating for a lot of people. So you can't.
It captures your attention for sure. There's no way to avoid it. Like, you can't drift off in thought. No. It's too stingy.
Yeah. And I know some clients that do. I got tattooed yesterday, and it is agonizing. For me personally, it's agonizing from start to end.
Really?
I crawl inside of myself. Huh. I love doing it. I love having them, but I do not like getting them. But one thing I found, at least with my clients, a lot of them, I don't know if it's the environment, being in an enclosed, comfortable space, is I have people fall asleep more than I ever did working in a street shop.
Does that happen?
A lot of the time. Especially
without drugs?
Without drugs. It's clean and sober. Because with my room, I can dim the lights. I can bring the lights down.
It is very relaxing.
Put the TV on, bring the lights down.
I think I'm more of a primitive animal, though. Yeah. When I'm in pain,
you have my attention.
Yeah, I'm on alert. I had some like cortisol flowing through my blood, and it's telling me I might need to kill something soon.
You're like, this is not
sleep
okay.
is not in the mechanics for me.
No, but
that's amazing that people do that.
Yeah. But that's
You sure they're not just passing out?
I mean, I have the rule: you can pass out as long as you don't throw up.
Okay.
If you throw up, the appointment's over. Yeah. You can pass out.
Yeah. Please finish it while I'm out.
Basically. Yeah. That was kind of my feelings yesterday. It's like, I kind of want to pass out. Just don't. Keep going, please. It was. But I'll sit through it. I will sit through it. I will let it be done. I will finish it.
That's a pretty good feeling.
Yeah. But I can't go to a Zen place. There's no.
Yeah.
I want to fight it, but I know I can't make it stop.
It's so weird how different it feels on different parts of your body.
Oh, it's insane.
And people always I like hearing people talk about that. They're like, no, this is the worst spot.
Everybody's most painful spot. Yep. Oh, everybody has their own, like, oh no, this is the worst spot.
I could tell you mine, but I think it might have been the circumstances. When you're doing my cover up,
I'm on your back.
It's just the thickest, darkest. I mean, it's a whole night sky, black ocean piece. Mm-hmm. And I was a dipshit, and I didn't want to wait as long as I should have for it to heal. I waited at like the approved amount of time. It was like 10 or 14 days or something. But it was so much work that it needed a lot more healing time than that.
Oh, yeah.
So then I committed, and you were stroking these huge, thick lines on my back again, and it wasn't all the way healed. And like when you got over the spine with that, I was thinking to myself, holy shit. Yeah. That is a lot of pain. It was like if it were a noise, it would be like a bolt of lightning, like cracking thunder that never stops. Yeah. Just like, that's what it sounded like in my head.
And that's especially for some of those spots. Like my fingers were my worst.
Really?
When I got my fingers tattooed. And that was a level of pain to where like I couldn't make cognitive thought. I couldn't form sentences. That was like
your fingers, huh?
Oh yeah, my fingers. Well, my fingers go down to down to the cuticle. Some of them,
I can see that.
Oh yeah, it was 3 hours of just, and it was even once you'd get done with one finger going to the next one, you had this pain from the new one. Yeah. But then the one you just done feels like you shut it in a car door.
That's part of why it's such an irritating pain, is because it stops and comes, and comes, but it never stops long enough for
you to recover.
And then when the needle's in, just when you're about to get used to it, it's gone. It's gone. You recover, then it's over and over and over. It's like a kind of self-inflicted torture. But we're not really selling this tattoo idea right now.
Not so much.
It is an awesome experience, and a lot of places don't hurt at all.
No, a lot of places don't, and that's where I even started carrying numbing cream.
That's right.
I recommend it to everybody.
People love that.
Oh yeah, and especially numbing cream that's manufactured now, like the company that I use.
It really works.
It works. It works, and it doesn't, because a lot of artists didn't like numbing cream for a long time. Because it would make the skin swell and it get real tough, and you didn't like working on it. But especially the numbing creams they have nowadays, they don't do that. So you take all of like the pain part out of the tattoo, or a good portion of it at least.
Yeah, well, just taking it, dulling it is enough.
Oh, for sure.
That's a major difference.
Oh yeah, and I push that so hard with all of my clients, not just for their comfort, but also mine. Because if my client's sitting better and not having to take as many breaks or stop, I can do my job better.
I bet that's the hard part of your job, especially in the beginning, is to do like beautiful art while you're hurting somebody.
Yeah, Oh, I hate hurting people. Like, a lot of people assume that tattoo artists are sadists, that we enjoy hurting people. I take no enjoyment. That's why I especially don't like tattooing people I'm really close to, because then
Sure.
I'm more upset about, like, I genuinely care that they're in pain.
Yeah, I wonder what that'd be like trying to tattoo your own kid.
Yeah.
Obviously not when they're a kid. But.
Well, yeah, that would be a different one. Because it's even hard tattooing Nicole or even you or Lindsay or like my friends, knowing that they're in pain.
Oh, yeah.
Especially your kid.
I don't squirm, though.
You don't. You do sit very still.
I was about to die on that table when you were doing my back, but I tried.
I wouldn't have known it.
Hey, I'm not gonna let him know.
No. Like, I gotta hold this in.
Yeah.
Especially in the place that we did it.
I'm sure you could see the sweat pouring off of me, though.
Just beating.
Yeah.
Well, in the place we were doing it in too, the shop we were doing it, it's all open. So it's not just me you have to save face for. It's like three other dudes.
That was a
and their
strange
clients.
kind of exposure.
Oh, you're most vulnerable, a very vulnerable position with a captive audience.
With some really nice girl walking in every 20 minutes to get a piercing saying, "Oh man, does that hurt?"
Yeah, and you're like, no, it's easy. I like it.
Makes you think I want to talk.
Yeah. I especially loved answering the phones all the time during that situation. Where, like, I know the client just wants me to get on with this, but I would answer the phone.
Yeah, your new studio's just not like that.
No. Well, that's where
people love it too.
Oh, yeah. That's where a lot of the stuff that I wanted to do with the new studio was the complete opposite of all the stuff I'd done before. Like, I didn't want to have just people walking in to talk. I wanted people to have their own time. So when I'm working on someone, that's their time.
Yeah.
You know, they come in and all I'm focused on is them. Like, I don't have a phone in my room. I make consultations to talk to clients so they have their own time for me to talk to them. And it doesn't interrupt someone else's time. And because I wanted it to feel special for everybody.
Yeah, like a good experience.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good idea to try to turn something that is a terrible experience into the best one you can make it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to be in pain for 6 hours with me, it's cool to make the rest
at least
of it
make
awesome.
it comfortable. Yeah.
And your spot is comfortable.
It is nice.
So it's got some, like, incense burning. You can have music going or something on the TV, and it's all personalized, which is cool.
Yeah.
Because you don't have anybody else in there. So your client wants to be mostly naked and watching the Brady Bunch and burning their favorite incense.
Have at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
Bring
for
your
it.
blankie,
Do
your
whatever you
pillow.
want.
Yeah. Yeah, and that is the nice thing that it is. I've actually honestly been thinking about sending out like client questionnaires before their appointment to where they can, like, what do you like to watch? What do you like to listen to? Trying to find out them kind of ahead of time. Because, like, I can sometimes, depending on what they're getting, so, like, the horror sleeve, like, I know this guy wants to watch horror movies. He's paying me to hurt him and put permanent horror on his arm. Like, I know he's here for that.
Right.
Same with, like, I had a client that she was getting a Disney Halloween sleeve. So it was all of, like, the Disney, like, Nightmare Before Christmas and Hocus Pocus, stuff like that. So when she would come in, if I was doing a Hocus Pocus piece, I'd put on Hocus Pocus on the TV.
Oh, that's cool.
So, like, that makes it really easy. And, like, sometimes if it's a brand new client, I don't know them at all. Like, I'll go to social media and kind of just peruse a little bit to kind of get a better idea of the things that they like. So that way when you come in, I'm already trying to cater for you. Like, I had one guy that he was coming in to get, I don't even remember what it was, but it wasn't sports related. But his Facebook was very, like, this is a Colts man.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like, this man was ready. So I'd like done the trial for ESPN, and I had the game playing when he came in. So he wasn't missing the game, how to watch it on his phone.
Uh-huh. That's great.
And I think that those are the little things, and the industry itself is moving more towards that than the opposite. A lot of clients, that's becoming the expectation for clients. So the industry is moving away from the come in and pick flash off the wall. Like, they want to come in and have a comfortable experience.
Yeah, I like it for sure. Mm-hmm. It's a much more interesting thing to me to have, like, a person who's mostly interested in the art.
Yeah.
who is collaborating with me to like put our my vision in your hands together to make this unique piece of art that's going to be uniquely on my body.
Yeah.
That's a cool thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something I enjoy.
But it takes a lot of discipline and motivation to stay, because you have to stay super consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And you do some grueling hours of work sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, there are.
How do you do well at that, not having a boss? Like, do you have any specific tricks or processes or anything you do to stay motivated and stay ambitious and follow through?
I think probably for me what it was is because I'd already, as a child, grown up that way. I'd grown up in a small business. So that, because I'm talking to people where they say, I don't know, how can I get this person to want to care? And a lot of times I don't have an answer for them because I don't understand why they don't care. So for me, is like, I wouldn't say I have any tricks. It's just the way my brain processes it is, I think I don't want to disappoint people too, especially people that I work with or partners or the clients in general, or even family. Like I have the expectation of myself to where I need to be the person that works the most. I need to be the person that is seen to be putting in the most effort because it's fulfilling to me.
Yeah.
And I never want to be the person where they're like, yeah, he kind of does stuff.
Yeah, I like that about you because you're always moving forward in every area. Usually, like in categories, like your art, you're always trying to make it better. Mm-hmm. Even when it became better than most people's around here in your industry, you were still making it better and better and better. And it's gotten so good. But at the same time, you're also like put a lot of work into like managing your schedule and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think is incredible because usually in your industry, my experience has been tattoo people are like one way or the other. Like, if they're incredible artists, they will be the hardest person to deal with. Mm-hmm. Like they're like, yeah, come back on like Tuesday, and I'm like, come back on Tuesday. Then they're like, hey, what's up, man? I'm like, you told me to come back on Tuesday. Like, oh, yeah, come back on Thursday. Yeah, you come back on Thursday and they're not even there. No, like, all right, bro. Or you have the other type of tattoo artists who they're very business minded, but their art isn't always so good. Usually it's like, when there's an artist like you that's been both areas, both realms, is disciplined and developed. It's a really, really unique, interesting thing.
Well, I think that was what I say is the most important part of where I started. Working in street shops, working in traditional style shops, to where that's where I started. That's where I learned of having that. If someone, it was the necessity to complete things quickly, proficiently, but quickly, because you had to get in, get out, get in, get out.
Oh, they're paying by the tattoo.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
not the hour.
No, so they're paying. You're pricing by piece, and so it's the incentive is to get it done quickly. But
a lot of them are budget tattoos.
Yes. Like, a lot of them are.
There's nothing wrong with that, but there's people that only have a certain amount of money and they still want a tattoo, and they have to go to a place like that.
Well, and most people that are walking into a street shop to look at Flash, like they're getting a small tattoo. They're not getting something big and
quality's not their biggest.
As long as it looks at like that picture, then they're happy. So that's where you do have people fall into that trap. But that was my biggest problem. Was I would get finished with a tattoo and it would look good, but I always wanted, like, if I had an extra hour, if I had 2 more hours, I could make it even better. Then that's why when I wanted to move and I wanted to have my own schedule and have my own, to where I could say
you could make better art,
and that's all it was.
Change your conditions to be able to do better.
Yeah, because when I moved from the place I was to here to the studio, I had absolutely no idea if I'd even make money. I didn't know if it was going to be successful.
It wasn't the point.
But it wasn't the point. The point is I wanted to create a place that catered to the client and to the art. Because I figured it's like, if you do good stuff, eventually you'll get paid.
Yeah.
And it's worked, and it's worked out great. And that's where now I don't think I could ever go back. I could never go back to working in that type of environment. And now it's not bad for everybody. For some people, that works great.
Yeah, but somebody like you whose major mode of operating is like get better.
Yeah.
You definitely have to have the space to do that.
Yeah, and that's where I tell my clients too when I do the consultation. Then and I forewarn them that I don't work quickly. Like I go slow, to where like I tell people, especially if they'll come in for I want a half sleeve. Can we get this done in? It's like 1 or 2 sessions, right? And I'm like, no, probably about 4 or 5. And for some people, it's hard to kind of grasp that. But that's where I also have a minimum amount of time that I'll work for. Like for projects, it's 4 hours minimum. And it's not for the money. I want to make sure we both, when you leave, we're both happy with the amount that got done.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective you have, because my perspective is that you work very fast because you came from a street shop. So I think maybe you're comparing your speed to street shop speed.
Yeah.
Because I have another set of tattoos from another great artist, probably one of the most renowned tattoo artists in the Midwest.
Oh, for sure.
And he's about half your speed.
Yeah.
I mean, you're twice as fast, doing comparable quality.
Yeah. When I worked in street shops, I don't
think you really take your time compared to people doing the quality you're doing. You're just good at it, dude. It just.
Well, I think back to working, 8 years ago, and I would get a sleeve done in 4 appointments, a sleeve. To where now it's, it might be 4 for half a sleeve. So that's where, and there are definitely some tattoos that do take super, super long. And there are some portraits that, like, especially the horror sleeve, there was a lot of the times he would leave with half a face. Because, I booked him for 5 hours and we worked for the full 5 hours, but only half the face was done in that time. But the half that was done looked dope. And that's where and a lot of my clients, they don't care. They don't care that how long it takes. They don't care that it's a project. They don't care that there's time invested. In fact, it's almost like that in and of itself is a commodity.
Yeah.
Being able to say how long it took.
I never cared about the time either. I cared about the quality the most. To me, like, there's a few things I don't want to be cheap.
Yeah.
My tattoos, I don't want a cheap tattoo.
No, because it's on you forever.
I don't want cheap flight tickets, honestly.
No, because I want to be comfortable.
Yeah, and I don't want them to cut any corners on the maintenance.
I want to make sure this is going from one place to another.
Yeah, I'm like 3 airlines. One of them is the cheapest. I'm not flying on that one.
Nope.
I want the one that pays the mechanic a good wage.
Yep. I want them to have happy employees.
Yeah. Hopefully it works that way. But yeah, tattoos are definitely one of those things.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And they are a luxury.
Like if I saw an advertisement for discount tattoos, I'm not even remotely attracted to that.
No. But there are people that are.
That's okay.
There definitely are those people.
But you got to pick what clients you want.
Well, and that's what I found, not even by doing it on purpose, just having the business model that I have as being a private studio, I kind of just adopted those type of clients in general.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They wanted that because it's almost a status symbol. We're saying like, oh, I went to this place. Mm. So you start collecting those clients that they hear the key buzzwords of private studio, custom only, consult only, and they gravitate towards almost the luxuriousness of it. It is a luxury. It's that upper level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the quality matches that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do it if you can.
Yeah.
So what's in the future for you, man?
Well, plan to expand. Yeah, they're going to expand, get a bigger space, hire some more people.
They're bringing some other artists.
I have 2 apprentices right now.
Train them in your ways.
Yes, teach them. But I have 2 apprentices right now that are doing very well. Very different personalities, both of them.
Different from each other.
Okay. Very different people.
And they're both women.
Yeah.
Which I find interesting. Not that it makes any difference to me, but the industry was primarily male artists for a long time.
Women weren't, for a long time, women weren't even allowed. It was not. If you were a woman, you went into a shop and you wanted to learn. For a long time, if you were a woman, you went into a shop wanting to get tattooed, you would not get tattooed. But if you went in to learn, they would laugh you out the building. Or weird. It would be some other...
That's weird because women are great artists.
Fantastic artists. And they're more compassionate than we are.
Yeah. But it's interesting to me now because there's like, when you put out the ad looking for an apprentice, you got loads of people, of course, wanting
Lots
to
of people.
apprentice
Lots
under
of
you.
people.
But like most of them were girls.
Majority.
So it's like flip-flopped, at least around here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think that's
majority were
interesting.
women. And majority women, and the best candidates were women.
Yeah.
Like for the top 5.
You picked 2 of them. Obviously, the things you were looking for had nothing to do with what their gender was.
Absolutely not. No, it was quality, and the top quality people just so happened to be women.
Yeah, that's really interesting that it changed so much.
Yeah, yeah. Because even when I started, it was in probably the first 6 years of being within the industry, I met one female tattoo artist. One female.
It seems like a no-brainer to me because women are great artists. And they also have this special power that make them great at nursing too.
Yeah.
That somehow they can be like stabbing you and stitching you up and being really nurturing and nice at the same time.
And makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing against dudes, but we're not that good at that.
We're not.
Not most of us. I'm sure there's plenty of exceptions. But
yeah. But for the most part, women just, you seem to trust them more.
When they're hurting you.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, this is okay. This hurts, but it's okay.
Yeah, somehow it feels good.
Yeah. Yeah. But now they're doing great. But we're hopefully here soon. In the future, we'll be expanding into a bigger space. Because I based it off of when I reached the point where I had the client list large enough to make sense to do it. Then we reached that point to where it made sense to expand to a larger area and bring in. But at the same time, I didn't want to open just another tattoo shop in Kokomo.
So you're going to open up a space that has private studios in it.
So basically just be an expanded version of what I have right now.
That's pretty cool.
So each artist will have their own personal area, their own personal space. So it'll just be more of my rooms.
I love that.
So because that was my biggest thing in expanding is I wanted to maintain the brand. I wanted to maintain what we had already fostered and created of the private studio experience, but open the access to more.
That seems really promising. Pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
Any concerns about running a shop and focusing on your own art though? Because
yeah, I mean that isn't.
You got to pick that balance.
Yeah. It's
because you sure don't want. From my experience of running things and trying to do things while I'm running things, like you don't want to be doing a tattoo and have a new problem of artists and people coming in every 10 minutes being like, hey, what do we do? Should I mop the bathroom? Or?
Yeah, and that's where I think I'll have to, at least initially, back down on my days a little bit to be able to manage it and it not compromise on my client's experience.
Yeah.
And still be able to try to manage the business and the daily flow a little better.
Yeah, and you'll probably be interested in managing the quality and the training and stuff.
Yeah, hands-on. Because that's where I want the quality.
If it's your brand,
it has to be maintained.
You're going to have to have an interest in the...
Yeah, exactly. And again, even in the expanding, it's my main focus is not necessarily the money part of it. My main focus is the quality, and the money will follow.
For sure. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. It's been an interesting experience running with apprentices now. Like first experience in teaching and having direct control of a quote unquote employee, of having a say. I'm the person that they text or call if they can't come in or if they can leave early. And learning where to have compassion and where not to have compassion for their problems or not even their problems, but their day to day. It's how concerned can I get and still maintain the boss separation.
Yeah, that's necessary for sure.
Yeah.